Would you rather spend $12,000 on a brand new economy hatchback with cloth seats and a 4-cylinder engine that sounds like a lawnmower under stress? Or spend that same $12,000 on a full-size luxury sedan that originally sold for $75,000, comes with a V8 engine, massaging rear seats, and enough technology to make a business-class cabin feel inadequate? Same money, completely different life. And the wild part is that most people are still choosing the hatchback every single day. Here's the thing nobody explains to you. These cars didn't get cheap because they broke. They got cheap because the people who bought them new got bored, or bought something newer, or simply didn't care enough about resale value to think twice. And when a $60,000 or $70,000 car hits the used market with that kind of depreciation already baked in, something extraordinary happens. The engineering stays exactly the same. The leather is still the same leather. The engine is still the same engine. The only thing that changed is the number on the price tag. And that number now belongs to you. So today, we're counting down 5 luxury cars where depreciation has made them almost hilariously cheap. And not just cheap. These are cars that don't break. Cars with engines that owners regularly drive past 200,000, 300,000, in some cases 400,000 miles. Cars that were built to compete with Mercedes and BMW at full price, and now compete with used Corollas at the auction. This is not a list of gambles. This is a list of the most disproportionate value propositions sitting in used car lots right now, waiting for someone who actually did their homework. Let's get into it. Number 5, the Hyundai Equus. And yes, I said Hyundai. Before you scroll away, stay with me. Because the Equus is possibly the single most underrated used luxury car on the planet, and the reason it's so cheap is one of the most purely psychological stories in the entire automotive market. When Hyundai launched the Equus in the United States in 2010, they were making a serious, fully committed attempt to compete directly with the Mercedes S-Class and the BMW 7 Series. Not to approximate them, not to offer a budget alternative, to compete with them, head to head, feature for feature. The internal brief was essentially, build something that embarrasses the Germans, price it slightly below them, and prove that Korean engineering has arrived. And on paper, they absolutely delivered. The Equus came standard with a 5.0-liter Tau V8 engine, producing around 429 horsepower. That is not an economy number. That is a serious, large displacement, naturally aspirated V8 that sounds authoritative and pulls with real conviction. The interior was genuinely extraordinary. Reclining rear seats with full massage function, a dedicated rear lounge with its own controls, real wood trim, soft leather across virtually every surface, and a feature list that checked boxes that competitors were charging $50,000 premiums to unlock. Hyundai even offered a concierge service, where a technician would come to your home to service the car because they understood the customer they were targeting. And yet, the depreciation hit it like a freight train. A 2014 Hyundai Equus with full options left the showroom somewhere around $66,000. That same car today, in clean condition with documented service history, can be found for $8,000 to $12,000. You are buying a genuine flagship luxury sedan with a power reclining rear lounge and a 429 horsepower V8 for less than most people spend on a used Honda Civic. The reason is the badge, pure and simple. When the used car market looks at a Hyundai, the brain does something automatic. It categorizes it. It files it. It assigns it a value ceiling based on decades of perception, regardless of what the actual car is or what it actually costs to build. And that perception gap is your opportunity, because the engineering underneath that badge tells a completely different story. The Tau V8 is not a rushed, cost-cut engine. It was a serious development program. Hyundai benchmarked it against the best naturally aspirated V8 EUS in the world and built it to last. The ownership community for this engine has accumulated hundreds of thousands of collective miles of data, and the consensus is consistent. Maintain it properly. Fresh oil, cooling system attention, timing chain service done on schedule. And this engine will run indefinitely. There are documented examples with over 200,000 miles that have never opened the engine. That is not a rumor. That is an established pattern of real-world longevity. The one thing you need to understand when buying an Equus is the suspension. The air suspension system is comfortable in a way that almost nothing else at this price point can match, but it is a known maintenance item. If struts haven't been addressed recently, budget for it. Know the cost in advance. Factor it into your negotiation. Because once that item is sorted, everything else about this car is simply outstanding. You get rear seat legroom that makes long journeys feel like a private transfer. You get a V8 soundtrack at every traffic light. And you get something that makes everyone who rides in the back genuinely reconsider everything they thought they knew about Hyundai. Buy this car with full service history. Find an independent shop comfortable with Korean luxury platforms, and enjoy the fact that you found something the market completely misunderstood. Number 4. The Infiniti Q70L. The Q70L is a car that should have been famous, but somehow managed to fly completely under the radar for its entire production life. It was never the car that enthusiasts argued about online. It was never the car that appeared on aspirational posters. And that quiet invisibility is the exact reason it now offers one of the most compelling value propositions in the used luxury segment. Let's establish what this car actually is before we talk about the price. The Q70L is the long wheelbase version of Infiniti's flagship rear-wheel drive luxury sedan. Long wheelbase means Infiniti physically extended the body to create meaningful additional rear seat space. We're talking legroom that competes with cars in a significantly higher price bracket. This was not a compromise product. This was Infiniti's direct answer to the stretched German flagships, the cars that chauffeurs drive for a living, the cars where the rear seat is genuinely the better seat. Under the bonnet, the Q70L uses the 3.7-liter VQ, 37 VHR V6, producing around 330 horsepower. And if you know anything about Nissan's engine history, that designation alone should make you feel very comfortable. The VQ engine family is one of the most celebrated power plants in the Japanese automotive industry. It won the Ward's 10 Best Engines Award for over a decade consecutively. That is not a coincidence. The VQ was engineered with a level of robustness that made it a favorite for high-mileage applications, and the VQ37 in particular is considered the refined peak of that development lineage. The Q70L today can be found for $9,000 to $13,000. A long-wheelbase luxury sedan with 330 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, and one of the most proven engines in recent automotive history for $13,000. The depreciation happened because Infiniti, as a brand, never quite broke through the perception ceiling occupied by Lexus, BMW, and Mercedes. Buyers in the used market who want a Japanese luxury car tend to reach for Lexus. Buyers who want rear-wheel drive reach for German alternatives. The Q70L sat in an uncomfortable middle ground that nobody was aggressively targeting, and the price kept drifting down. What makes the Q70L special as a used purchase is the combination of mechanical simplicity and genuine luxury. The VQ engine doesn't have the complex twin-turbo architecture that adds maintenance layers to many of its competitors. The transmission is a 7-speed automatic that shifts with confidence and has an excellent reliability record. The rear seat environment in the long wheelbase variant is genuinely spacious in a way that photographs cannot fully communicate. You need to sit in one to understand why Infiniti bothered extending the wheelbase. The Q70L rewards a buyer who values substance over surface. It isn't the most exciting car on this list. It doesn't have the heritage story or the V8 drama of some of the others. But if you want a rear-wheel drive luxury sedan that will simply work reliably, comfortably, for year after year, with an engine that has proven itself across hundreds of thousands of real-world miles, the Q70L is one of the quietest and most compelling arguments on the used car market. Look for examples that have been dealer-serviced or have comprehensive independent records. The Q70L's maintenance needs are modest and well understood. Buy the right one and you get a genuine long-wheelbase luxury experience for a price that most people spend on a weekend city break. Number 3. The Toyota Avalon Limited. Now we're moving into territory where reliability stops being a selling point and starts being almost a provable scientific fact. The Toyota Avalon doesn't get discussed in the same breath as luxury flagships. It doesn't carry the aspirational weight of the cars we've already covered. But here is what the Avalon actually is, underneath the understated exterior and the modest branding. It is a full-size, front-wheel drive luxury sedan built on the same platform, sharing the same fundamental architecture, and using many of the same components as the Lexus ES350. That is not an opinion, that is an engineering fact. And the Lexus ES350 is widely regarded as one of the most reliable luxury sedans ever produced. The 2013 to 2018 Avalon Limited uses the 3.5-liter 2GR-FEV 6 engine producing around 268 horsepower. This engine has been installed in more Toyota and Lexus products than almost any other modern power plant in the company's lineup. It is port fuel injected, which means it does not suffer from the direct injection carbon buildup issues that affect so many modern engines. Port injection keeps the intake valves clean. Clean intake valves mean the engine breathes properly at high mileage. And breathing properly at high mileage is one of the key reasons these engines regularly exceed 300,000 miles without requiring internal attention. Let that number land for a moment. 300,000 miles. That is not an exceptional outlier case. That is a pattern. Toyota Avalon owners in the United States regularly accumulate this kind of mileage and document it on forums, in owner surveys, in long-term review follow-ups. The 2GR-FE in the Avalon is arguably one of the safest engine investments in the modern used car market. The interior of the Avalon Limited is genuinely comfortable in ways that surprise people who dismiss it based on the badge. You get heated and ventilated front seats, a heated rear bench, JBL premium audio, dual-zone climate, and a cabin that prioritizes quietness and smoothness over sporty character. Toyota specifically tuned the Avalon to insulate occupants from road and wind noise because their target buyer wanted a comfortable, relaxed driving environment. What they built is a car that covers long distances with a serenity that genuinely competes with vehicles costing significantly more. Used prices for a clean 2015 or 2016 Avalon Limited sit around $8,000 to $12,000. You are buying Lexus-level engineering, a proven 300,000-mile engine, and a genuinely comfortable luxury interior for the price of a modest used economy car. The Avalon is the car for the buyer who has stopped caring about impressing anyone and started caring about driving something excellent. And there is a particular confidence that comes with owning a car whose reliability is so well documented that the main thing you need to decide is what color you want. This is not a gamble. This is not a calculated risk. This is simply a very good car at an extraordinarily fair price. Number 2. the Acura RLX. The Acura RLX is a fascinating entry on this list because it represents a very specific kind of depreciation, the kind that happens when a car is genuinely brilliant, but nobody notices. The RLX was Acura's halo product, their statement of intent. The flagship that was supposed to demonstrate that Honda's premium division could produce a car worthy of consideration against the best luxury sedans from Germany and Japan. And the engineers who built it took that mission seriously in ways that the sales numbers never reflected. Start with the drivetrain. The RLX uses a 3.5-liter J35 V6, producing around 310 horsepower. The J-Series V6 from Honda is one of the most thoroughly proven engine families in modern automotive history. It appears in the Honda Accord, the Honda Pilot, the Honda Odyssey, and dozens of other platforms across multiple decades of production. It is a fundamentally over-engineered unit for the performance levels it operates at, which is exactly the kind of mechanical conservatism that produces exceptional long-term reliability. If you want an engine that you can service at any competent shop anywhere in the world without paying luxury brand premiums for parts, the J35 is your engine. But the RLX isn't just a dressed-up Accord with a fancy badge. The technology content in this car was genuinely advanced at launch and remains impressive today. The Precision All-Wheel Steer System, PAWS, uses individually controlled rear electric motors to angle the rear wheels independently during cornering. This is not gimmick technology. This is the same fundamental approach that Porsche and Bentley use in their rear steering systems, applied to a Honda product at a fraction of the eventual used price. The front collision mitigation, the lane keeping assist, the adaptive cruise control, the RLX was loaded with active safety technology at a time when competitors were still charging significant option premiums for equivalent systems. Acura packed it in as standard because they were trying to prove a point, and they proved it. The market just didn't pay attention. Today, the RLX trades for $9,000 to $12,000. An Acura flagship sedan with a Honda V6, rear-wheel steering, advanced safety technology, and a premium interior for $12,000. The depreciation curve on this car is almost a perfect example of badge penalty in action. Acura doesn't carry the prestige pull of Lexus in the used market. Buyers who want Japanese luxury tend to gravitate toward the LS, and so the RLX sits underpriced, overlooked, and genuinely excellent. The buying strategy here is straightforward. The J35 needs oil changes and basic maintenance. There is no exotic service requirement. The PAWS system is worth having inspected at purchase, but is not a chronic issue in well-maintained examples. Find a clean one with records, have a Honda-literate mechanic inspect it, and enjoy the fact that you found a flagship product that the market simply forgot to value correctly. Number 1. The Lexus LS460. Here it is. The car that makes every argument in this video so overwhelming, it almost feels unfair. The Lexus LS460 is not just the best entry on this list. It is one of the most extraordinary value propositions in the entire used car market, at any price point, in any segment, full stop. To understand why, you have to understand what Toyota was trying to prove when they built the LS line. This was not a corporate exercise in badge creation. This was a crusade. Toyota's engineers had studied Mercedes, they had studied BMW, and they had decided not just to match them, but to systematically dismantle every argument for German supremacies in the luxury segment. They attacked noise levels, material quality, powertrain smoothness, long-term durability, and service costs simultaneously. And the result was a car that automotive journalists consistently described as not just competitive with the German flagships, but better in several measurable, documented ways. The 4.6-liter 1UR-FSE V8 in the LS460 produces around 386 horsepower, but the raw number doesn't tell the story. What tells the story is how this engine was built. Toyota designed it with clearances and material specifications that anticipated usage patterns far beyond what the average owner would ever demand. The result is an engine that appears repeatedly in documentation of vehicles with 300,000, 350,000, 400,000 miles on the original powertrain. This is not a marketing claim. These are owner-reported, photographed, documented real-world examples. The 1UR-FSE V8 is arguably one of the most durable luxury V8 engines ever produced for the consumer market. The 8-speed automatic transmission, developed specifically for the LS460, is equally proven. The air suspension system, which is the primary maintenance consideration buyers should investigate at purchase, is notably more durable than comparable systems in German competitors. It's a maintenance item, not a crisis. Know the cost, inspect the condition, factor it into the price. Once sorted, it stays sorted. And then there's the interior. The 2013 to 2017 facelifted LS460 represents the peak refinement of this generation's cabin. 4-zone climate control, front and rear, heated and ventilated seats with massage function, genuine wood and leather throughout. A sound, deadening specification so thorough that closing the door sounds like the world outside has been switched off. The long wheelbase LS460L adds rear executive seating with enough legroom to comfortably transport someone who is genuinely tall. This was a car designed for people who could afford anything, and it shows in every detail. A 2015 Lexus LS460 in the facelifted specification, originally priced between $75,000 and $90,000, can be found today for $9,000 to $15,000. You are buying the Japanese answer to the S-Class, with a V8 engine that owners routinely drive to 400,000 miles, and an interior built to a standard that remains genuinely impressive against current production vehicles for the price of a modest used family car. The LS460 depreciated for one reason. It isn't flashy. It doesn't broadcast status in the same cultural shorthand as a German badge. It doesn't attract attention at traffic lights or generate conversation at valet stands. It just does everything, every single thing, at an extraordinarily high level, quietly and reliably, for as long as you choose to own it. And the buyers who discovered this tend not to talk about it too loudly, because the undervaluation is the point. So here is what you do with this information, because a list is only useful if you act on it correctly. Before you buy anything on this list, get a pre-purchase inspection from a specialist who knows that specific brand. Not a general mechanic, someone who has worked on these platforms. The difference in what they catch is significant and worth every penny of the inspection fee. Buy the service history, not just the car. A higher mileage example with complete documented maintenance records is a dramatically safer purchase than a lower mileage example with nothing on paper. The records tell you how the previous owner treated the engineering. Research the known maintenance items for each model before you make an offer. Every car on this list has well-documented, predictable service needs that the owner community has mapped out in detail. Know what those items cost. Price them into your negotiation before you shake hands. Use the owner forums. The communities around each of these cars have collectively spent millions of dollars learning exactly how these platforms work. Their knowledge is free, and the quality of insight you'll find there is better than most professional advice. And finally, ignore the badge anxiety. The market already priced in the psychology of the badge. That's literally why these cars are affordable. You are not buying the badge, you are buying the engineering, the materials, the powertrain, and the driving experience. And on every one of those dimensions, these 5 cars are extraordinary. 5 luxury cars. 5 dramatic depreciation stories. One principle that connects all of them. The Hyundai Equus, a 429 horsepower V8 flagship with reclining rear massage seats for $10,000. The Infiniti Q70L, a long wheelbase rear-wheel drive luxury sedan with a legendary engine for $12,000. The Toyota Avalon Limited, Lexus engineering in a different suit, with a 300,000-mile engine for under $10,000. The Acura RLX, a Honda flagship with rear-wheel steering and advanced technology that the market completely forgot to value. And the Lexus LS460, the most reliable full-size luxury V8 sedan ever produced, available right now for less than most people spend on a holiday. Depreciation isn't a warning, it's an invitation. The only question is whether you're paying attention. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 5 you would actually buy. And if you want to go deeper on how to find, inspect, and buy one of these cars without making a mistake, the next video is already there waiting for you.